Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 271. I am Brendan. All right, we're going to talk about TUF Season 31, McGregor versus Chandler, Episode 1. All right, I know this is going to be a little bit different because we normally don't cover, the Ultimate Fighter here, and this is going to be a little bit newer for me. But it's not like I haven't watched the Ultimate Fighter before, and I figure I'm watching it anyway. Might as well take notes and record a little short episode to recap each one. So if you'd like to follow along with me, I'll be covering these every single week. Subscribe to the channel so the next video is coming out. I'm probably going to post them the day after to let everybody digest it. I'm not going to try and be the first to post on it. Kind of just let it sit and feel it out. So first of all, I haven't watched The Ultimate Fighter since, what was it? 19? 20. It was a while ago. I would see highlights here and there. I know that it existed. It's not that I was actively avoiding it. It's just not something I wanted to carve out time for, right? I don't know if people felt that way. I don't know if I'm unique in that. I can, generally I see a lot of people posting out there, hey, the Ultimate Fighter needs to stop. They don't need to have it every, blah, 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 blah. I will tell you, this is one of the, especially now that it's on ESPN Plus, right? So now I can go back and watch it whenever I want. It makes it more accessible. It makes it so that I don't have to carve out a specific time. I don't have to, be there exactly when it's on or watch a replay whenever they're managing to show it. I can go to it at my leisure. It's not a big deal. And I can also, rewind an episode if I miss a part or if I want to go back and watch something. It's much more, like I said, it's just much more accessible. So I'm a big fan of that. And, obviously anytime McGregor is involved in something, it's going to draw eyeballs from the casuals and from the hardcores. And, I guess I fall into that category, I'm also, here's the thing. If Michael Chandler was doing this with Justin Gaethje, I would have watched it too. Because I like both fighters. Right, I know they already fought, so that probably wouldn't be doing that. But if Justin Gaethje was doing this with somebody, maybe not if Michael Chandler is doing it with certain people in the UFC, but probably because I really like Michael Chandler. If Justin Gaethje was doing this with a bunch of versus a bunch of guys in the UFC, I would probably be down for that as well. I'm a fan of a lot of UFC fighters, and I like their fighting styles, and this time around, I don't know if it's just because it's McGregor that got me interested in it, but I probably was ready to start watching The Ultimate Fighter again. Taking notes. It's in the middle of the week when I don't have a lot going on as far as, appointment viewing. I don't have a ton of things that I need to watch on a Tuesday night or need to watch on a Wednesday morning. So I'm able to get to this when I can. And I know this is a lot of upfront stuff, and I promise we'll get to the fight. Okay. Here's the other thing. If you think this is bad, this episode was a whole lot of a hullabaloo for not a whole lot of not a fighting. The fight was fun while it lasted, but it did not last long. Spoiler alert. So, let's get into the episode. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the setup of this season. I'm pretty interested in it. I'm interested in seeing how things shake out, and I would really like Chandler to fight McGregor. Right? It's not a guarantee that it's going to happen. It's that's how they're setting it up, and it's most likely going to happen. But it's by no means a guarantee. So it was nice to see the initial reaction was friendly when Conor came in. They started, he started with the "Hey, how you doing?" Michael Chandler. They seemed very respectful of each other, and then immediately McGregor turns it on. He's like, I haven't even told you what weight we're going to do this at, and you'll do what you're fucking told, and this and that, and like, I run this game, and I own this game. So it's one of those things where I know this is Conor's shtick, but god dang, it must be exhausting to be in the room with him. I totally get it when he just irks you, and that's great, because that's what he's good at. I totally get it. The fact that you're trying to have like a respectful conversation with him, and immediately he's just starting in on his shit. And he's like, you do what you're told, and I run this game, and this is my shit. Like, man, you've been out for 2 years. And I know it's because of an injury, and I'm not dogging him for that. What I mean is, like, Michael Chandler's been in there with the best, fighting constantly, fighting whoever, whenever. And McGregor's been really picky and choosy over the past 5 or 6 years, and and he's also had this injury layoff. So it's also interesting, the setup for this season. They split the 135ers and 155ers into vets and prospects. I don't know if that's something that's common in the last couple TUF seasons. I just know that when I watched The Ultimate Fighter, it used to be that you had a pool of fighters and then you got to pick from them, right? You have, I don't know, let's say 20 fighters, 20 fighters. 10 from each division, weight division, whatever, 2 divisions. They're usually doing 2 divisions. Sometimes it's only 1, but if they do 2 divisions, you got 10 fighters, and then you start picking them. You go back and forth like you're picking your teammates for a pickup basketball game or a game of tag back in the day, whatever. Very schoolyard type of deal. This one, what they did was they had a batch pick. Right, they have a group of veterans, guys who have been in the UFC at some point. Right, I have not watched anything on the lead up to this because I just want to be entertained by the show itself. I don't want to have to do a bunch of research. I don't know if that's going to hurt or help my experience or enhance my experience. We shall see. I'm interested in the setup involved in the show, right? I don't want to have to go do a bunch of research and read a bunch of articles about every single fighter who's in here. I would like them to do a pretty good job. And I think they did a good job in this episode, setting up the 2 fighters who were involved in the only fight in this episode. And okay, so the setup, right? So 155ers, 135ers, and they're split into 2 groups in each category. You have the vets and the prospects. So guys who have been in the UFC before, have done their stint, 1 or 2 fights, 3 fights, 4 fights, 8 fights in the case of Roberts. And then you got your prospects, guys who have not fought in the UFC. They're not necessarily rookies, right? They could have been in the game for a while, but they have not fought in the UFC before. So it's an interesting idea. And you have to batch pick, right? So Conor McGregor gets the first pick, and he picks the prospects for the 155 division. And then that means the veterans from the 155ers automatically go to Chandler's team. And then Chandler gets next pick, and he picks the 135 veterans. So it's essentially McGregor gets the prospects from the 135, 155, and Chandler gets the veterans from the 135, 155. So it's not only is it Chandler versus McGregor, Chandler's team versus McGregor's team, it's veterans versus prospects across the board. So it's a cool setup. We'll see how it works. I think it's interesting. I don't know how it's going to work as far as this concentrated timetable, this truncated timetable of taking a prospect who's raw and trying to get him to win against some guys who have a lot of experience, some with good foundation, something that we saw. Well, both guys had experience in this fight today. So, what else? Oh, Chandler started, so they go into the training. So they also went to the house. I am so not interested in this stuff anymore. This is not 2001. This is not 1996. I am not interested in the real world rules bullshit anymore. If you are, let me know in the comments below. Like, am I missing something? Are there still fans of that out there? This reality TV bullshit where they put these dingalings in a house and then try to amp up and pick out the conflict and give them booze. And it's not for me. I'm not interested in it. I'm interested in the training. I'm interested in the coaching. I'm interested in the back and forth between the fighters and their coaches, and the coaches between each other, the fighters, the teams between each other. I'm interested in all those things, but all this pomp and circumstance inside the house, I'm not for it. So there's that. I don't really want to touch on that. What I would like to talk on is the training. So Chandler brings them in and they start warming up, and they start going through the motions. They start with shadow boxing and this and that. And then McGregor comes out and he says, oh, these guys got all this energy and there's all this like blah, blah, blah. So we're going to get this out by immediately going hard sparring. I don't know if that was cooked, which I know is they use that term in jiu-jitsu as well, cooking your opponent. So I don't mean it in that way. In production, right, in TV and TV, reality TV especially, it's called cooking. It means there might be an element of reality in there, but clearly it was amped up, or they brought it to the forefront more than it really was, to make for better TV. So it might have been that McGregor had them warm up properly and had them get to know each other and then had them hard spar, and Chandler did the exact same thing, but they really wanted to show the dichotomy between the two coaching styles, and they emphasized, Chandler's taking it easy. Hey, these are the veterans. They know what they're doing. Let's get out there. Let's warm up. Let's learn some skills and stuff. And, McGregor's taking these prospects and like, let's get in there hard sparring. Let's see what you got. You're coming to kill each other, this and that. So there's, like I said, I don't know if it was cooked up for television, but I think that's interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. McGregor doesn't show up for the weigh-ins, which I thought was kind of shitty and weird. Was it cooked for TV? Was there an actual reason he wasn't there and they're just not showing it? They're just making him seem like he's aloof and he's not interested in coaching, and Chandler's really taking more of an active role in being a participant in this stuff. And, McGregor's always showing up in suits, and Chandler's showing up in workout gear to being involved in this. McGregor shows up while Jennerman is warming up. So this fight, the fight goes down. We don't need to talk about who they picked or anything like that unless we got No, we don't need to talk about that. So it's Roosevelt Roberts versus Nate Jennerman. Roosevelt Roberts obviously did his stint in the UFC. He had some good fights in the UFC. Right? So he won the Ultimate Fighter 28 finale. On that finale, I don't think he won. He was a Dana White Contender Series alum as well. He beat Daryl Horcher. It's an okay win. It's he's not a world beater, but it's a good win. Thomas Gifford, again, it's whatever. Losing to Vince Pichel kind of shows like his greenness. Alexander Yakovlev, yeah, again, okay win. Brock Weaver, he was supposed to be a good prospect. He turned out to be kind of a nothing. So beating him, looking back, it's like he's beating guys he's supposed to beat, and he loses to Jim Miller, which, losing to Jim Miller isn't necessarily the biggest mark against you, but let's see how he responds, and then he gets the no contest. And then getting knocked out by Ignacio Bahamondes, and that was the last fight in his contract, and this was Bahamondes coming off of his bad performance. So his only 3 losses came in the UFC, and he's a highly skilled fighter. He's got a lot of physical gifts. He's very tall for the division. I think, what does he stand at? 6'2". He's got a really long reach, and he's got lots of experience, especially being in the Apex. So almost like a home fight for him. And then Nate Jennerman fighting from Sheboygan. A little bit about me. I have a lot of family in Sheboygan, or I did at one point. A lot of them have moved out from there now, but I have a big portion of my family actually came from Sheboygan. Wow, I'm going through puberty again. A big portion of my family came from Sheboygan, so when I found out that Nate Jennerman was from Sheboygan, I'm like, oh, cool, and then I immediately saw his highlights and stuff like that, and I understand he's got experience, and he fought for the belt before in, I think, LFA and lost. I just didn't see him winning this. There was nothing about his style of fighting with his bad head movement, unless he got in on a grappling exchange early, that he would be able to win. So immediately, McGregor shows up while Jennerman is warming up already. So, they show again, the more of the dichotomy in the coaching, right? You got Chandler in there with Roberts, he's there before Roberts shows up, and Roberts comes in and they start warming up backstage and doing all the things, just like it's a professional fight. Jennerman's already there warming up with McGregor's team, and McGregor shows up late while Jennerman's already warming up. He's still dressed in a suit. He's not dressed out in workout gear. McGregor is. It's fine to stay dressed. I mean, I dress up for work, and I do things like relatively physical sometimes, and I don't mind. I think that's part of the gig. Like, it's just part of dressing up. Sometimes you're going to put yourself in positions where you might get a little dirty, whatever. So I don't have a problem with that, but you got to show up on time, and like I said, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose to show that he's not, he's more aloof, but I don't appreciate it. And then, so the fight, okay, so I know this is a lot about everything else, just because the fight lasts like 15 seconds. Nice right hand lands from Roberts immediately. Like, he comes in with a right hand and lands a right hand. Then he follows up with a 1-2. Just a beautiful, just a nice and simple, just pop, pop, right? Just he sets it up really nice, and then the right hand lands right behind the ear, puts Jennerman down. He follows up with some hammer shots, and that's the end of it. And then you got Jennerman crying backstage. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand it's emotional, especially because it feels like he didn't get to even show up and show out for all the work that he put in. So that's it right there behind the ear, and then he's out. That's all it was, man. It was so fast. I didn't feel like it was an early stoppage. There was nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. McGregor was... Again, it's one of those things where I don't know if they're cooking this up or not. But I think Roberts maximized his opportunity here, and Jennerman didn't get... I don't know if he... all that happened was he got caught behind the ear, takes off his balance, and he goes down. Right? He didn't get hit clean on the jaw and clearly knocked out. He was off balance, and then he got put out on the ground. He was out. That's not a bad stoppage. Good stoppage, absolutely. It's just one of those moments where you see this happen, and you feel for the guy who loses because he doesn't get to show anything. And we'll see. I don't know what the future holds for him, but it could be a blessing in disguise. He didn't go out there and get dismantled for 10 minutes, right? He went out there and got finished in a couple seconds, and he got clipped. So there's nothing. And it's not even a chin thing. I got clipped behind the ear, so your balance goes out. Overall, I'm not going to rate each one of these episodes because I think that's a little bit silly. If you missed this episode, I would go back and I would skip through some of if you know a lot of the backstory for each fighter, you could probably skip through, 10 minutes, first 10 minutes, even when they're picking teams, because you kind of figure out who they get anyway. You can kind of skip through until they start doing the backstory, which I thought they did a great job showing the backstory of Roosevelt Roberts, showing his highlights, showing the Nate Jennerman's, showing his highlights and that kind of stuff. So I think they did a good enough job of concentrating enough information in this episode that even if you weren't aware of who Roosevelt Roberts was or Nate Jennerman, in my case, I didn't know who Nate Jennerman was. I got a good feel of who he was, and I kind of saw a little bit of his fighting, maybe not enough of his fighting style, but based off of his sparring, from what they did show, it didn't look good for him, and that's why I figured Roosevelt was going to win. So for sure, watch the fight. It's not going to take up a lot of your time. I would watch their backstories, just kind of get a feel who they are, and maybe if you want to dip into the rest of the episode, but for sure the last, if you want to watch like the last 15 minutes of the episode, last 10 minutes, I do recommend watching this episode. Overall, good start to the season. I am excited going forward. I want to see what these veterans do to these prospects. I want to see if some of the prospects can step up to the level of competition. And based off the highlights and previews that they're showing, McGregor gets really excited about things, so I'm guessing some of his guys win at some point. If you like that kind of stuff and you want somebody to talk about it with, I'm here. Drop some comments down below. Subscribe to the channel so the next video is coming out. I put out 2 or 3 videos every single week breaking down fights. I'm going to cover the UFC. I cover Bellator, all that good stuff. So hope you have an amazing week. See you this weekend. Love y'all.